about the Chris Paul trade to the Lakers that happened and then didn't happen. And I'm going to talk about it and why I've never heard it and why it actually makes a ton of sense right after the bumper. What's good people? Jeff Lightsy Jr. here with the Black Boss channel and Victory Formation. Be sure to hit the thumbs up button, like, share, subscribe, and the notification bell because we upload every single day and I try to come to you live right here at 6 p.m. Eastern. Today we are going to talk about the subject of Chris Paul and his trade, not so much trade to the Lakers that went down but then actually didn't go down. The NBA vetoed it, all that good stuff. So for those of you who don't know, back in 2011, Chris Paul was actually traded from New Orleans to the Lakers for about 2 hours. For about 2 hours, he was a member of the Los Angeles Lakers. But then the NBA vetoed the trade. The NBA made sure it never happened. Obviously, a few days later, he was traded to the Clippers, and the rest is history. Well, Chris Paul was recently on Gilbert Arenas' No Chill Gil podcast. And Gilbert actually told Chris Paul why the trade didn't go down. Chris Paul, like, I guess, you know what I mean? Like, maybe he didn't know all the full details, and obviously everything isn't concrete, right? Like, Gilbert isn't the NBA, but his answer and his explanation to Chris Paul was so dope. So listen to this. I'm gonna share my screen and we're gonna talk about it because it's interesting, and then we'll get to some college football because I know tonight is the start of the week one. Last week was week 0, but it's week 1 of the college football season. Ohio State plays tonight. My alma mater WKU plays tonight. A bunch of teams play tonight. A bunch more teams play this weekend, and I can't wait. We'll talk some football, but we have to discuss this conversation between Gilbert Arenas and Chris Paul. So this is courtesy of the Court Seat on Instagram. Shout out to Court Seat on Instagram, and my profile Sean Hobson tagged me in this post because I hadn't seen it. I don't watch Gilbert Arenas' podcast. I don't get a chance to catch it, but this was super dope. So this is Gilbert Arenas to Chris Paul. Said it would have destroyed the league for at least 10 years. Gilbert Arenas on why Chris Paul trade got vetoed. And then I'll show you the clips. He says, you guys still had about 24 to $30 million in cap space left after. Let him explain. I can talk, but let's listen to him.
Dan Fagan. So when it got nicked, I'm like, Dan, what happened? So he was like, he said it was unfair, right? So I'll bring
Unfair for me to go to the Lakers?
yeah, so he said it's unfair, and he said, so what was in the background of all that was Dwight Howard being traded for Bynum, right? So I gotta remember, I'm in Orlando. So,
Whoa.
like, I'm already talking to Otis, and it was like, Dwight don't want to stay.
You was in Orlando?
I'm in Orlando. So you remember, this is when the amnesty was coming.
Yes, I've been in all the CBA negotiations too.
So Orlando, so they're trying to figure out if they were going to throw me in the deal and force Lakers, if you want Dwight, you're going to have to take Gilbert's contract too. Dan Fagan.
Wow, that's part 2.
Oh, you was going to come to the Lakers too?
Then I was probably going to get an amnesty.
Oh, okay.
So
okay.
right.
Because I tell you one day what me and Cole said on the phone when we was talking about that, because Dwight was for sure probably about to come with us too.
Yeah, so basically, after all y'all, the super team got together, y'all had too much money left over.
Too much money left over.
That was the reason it got nicked.
Wow.
So Dan Fagan hit Mark Cuban and did the numbers. And it would have like destroyed the league for at least 10 years.
What if the trade would have happened?
So if you went, Dwight went, you guys had about 24 to 30 million dollars left in cap space. So at that time, you're talking about the contract 2.
Well, let's continue. This is part 3.
Starting price about 12, 13 million on the max contract. So you got 3 max players right
Wow.
The starting price about 12, 13 million on the max contract.
Wow. So to sum up what he said was the Lakers would have had Chris Paul. They would have traded for him. They were making that trade. And I'll give you the details about what that trade actually was and how they would have been able to pull that off. Then Dwight Howard at the time, you remember, Dwight Howard wanted out of Orlando. So a fair deal to Orlando would have been sending Dwight and the bad contract that was Gilbert Arenas. You know, at that moment, Gilbert Arenas was actually making more money than LeBron James, right? So they were going to send the bad contract of Gilbert Arenas and Dwight Howard and get back Andrew Bynum and probably some picks or something, right? That was going to be the trade. So the Lakers would have had Dwight Howard in his prime, 2011 Dwight Howard, Chris Paul in his prime, 2011 Chris Paul, and Kobe Bryant coming off winning 2 championships, trying to get back to the NBA championship. Wow. Wow. And the cherry on top of all of that, they would have had $24 to $30 million in cap space left. And at the time, in cap space, the max level guys, some of the top guys in the league, you know, it's not the league that it is now, right? Where these guys are getting, you know, taking up 40 million towards your cap, 30 million. Max player guys were taking up between 12 and 15 million of your cap space, right? I'm not trying to bug you with numbers, but let's just make it simple. They would have had enough money between the 24 and 30 million roughly to go out and get 2 more max level all-star type players with the cap space that they had. And the league said, oh, hell no. This cannot go down. There's no way we can allow Kobe coming off winning some rings, Dwight in his prime, and Chris Paul in his prime, all to team up together on that team. Off a team that just won 2 titles, you know, in the last couple of years. Nah. Nah, we can't let this happen. We cannot let this happen at all. And here are the details of the Chris Paul trade that happened and then didn't happen. So on December 8th is when the trade went down. Then NBA Commissioner David Stern vetoed a 3-team trade that would have sent Chris Paul to the Los Angeles Lakers. It would have paired Paul with Kobe Bryant in Los Angeles with a lot of other moving parts as per multiple reports. Here's how the trade would have looked. The Lakers would have got Chris Paul. They would have shipped out Lamar Odom. Kevin Martin from the Rockets would have shipped out Lamar Odom to New Orleans. Kevin Martin from the Rockets would have went to New Orleans. And Luis Scola from the Rockets would have went to New Orleans. And Goran Dragic from the Rockets would have went to New Orleans. And then Houston would have received Pau Gasol. Remember, Pau Gasol was a prime value. He had just come off winning 2 championships. So Pau Gasol was a hot commodity. Pau Gasol was somebody a lot of people wanted. Pau Gasol is who the Rockets at the time wanted to have down in Houston. Get rid of all their young guys and get a veteran. So that would have been a win for the Rockets in their eyes. Get rid of all these young guys, unproven, Goran Dragic, Luis Scola, who's just okay, Kevin Martin, who was solid, but he wasn't Pau Gasol. And the Lakers would have with a highway robbery would have got Chris Paul. But here's the thing. The NBA at the time owned the New Orleans Hornets. They were the New Orleans Hornets at the time. The NBA owned the New Orleans Hornets. And so here's an article written this year or in 2020. It says, despite the public reaction to the decision, because people were pissed that David Stern vetoed this trade. People were pissed that he vetoed this trade. Stern was within his capacity to deny the trade as the league, listen to this is what was key and why what Gilbert Arenas said is probably facts. The league owned the Hornets. The league owned the Hornets, owned the majority stake of the Hornets. So think about this. If the league owns the Hornets and David Stern, who is the commissioner, when you're the commissioner, you work for the owners. You don't work for the players. You're not looking for the best interest of the players. You are looking at the best interest of the owners. Let's not get it twisted. The league runs because of the owners. Well, the commissioner, all of everything he wants to do is in the benefit of the owners. That's why you see a lot of stupid rules get passed, right? That's why you see a lot of, like the NFL, no taunting. Why is the no taunting a thing? because the owners wanted it in there. The players didn't give a damn about taunting. The owners didn't like taunting. Why do you think they approve new football and new equipment and things like that? They don't get passed because of the players. Get passed because of the owners. If the owners see it best fit, and as long as it doesn't affect their bottom dollar, 9 times out of 10 they'll make it happen. But this to them was going to affect things. They weren't going to have a chance of winning a championship in their eyes. You pair Kobe, and in the background, Dwight is about to get traded because Dwight ends up being on the Lakers. Remember, that does end up happening. Dwight is about to get there too because he's disgruntled in Orlando with Kobe and CP. And they're going to have $25 to $30 million in cap space left after they get both guys? Come on, man. Come on. No, we cannot allow this to happen. Now, David Stern, RIP, David Stern, he went a step further to actually insult someone on why he vetoed that trade. So the reporter, when they asked David Stern, after obviously years after it went down, they said, "Why'd you cancel the trade? Why'd you veto the trade?" David Stern goes, quote, I'm going to correct your language. What cancellation? The GM at the time of the Hornets, Dell Demps, this is the shot of Dell Demps right here, was not authorized to make that trade, Stern told Brian Berger of Sports Business Radio Show. And acting on the behalf of the owners, we decided to not make it. I was an owner rep. There was nothing to void. The trade never got made. Well, that technically is true, but the trade was made. It was agreed upon, but it got vetoed because it has to be approved by the league, and the league didn't approve it. Why? Because the league knew Dwight Howard was headed to LA. The league knew Chris Paul was going to be in LA, and the league knew that the Lakers were going to have $24 to $30 million left in cap space, and they did not want that to happen, to go out and get 2 high-level players on the market. Yeah, the league didn't want that to happen. The league had no interest at all in the Lakers having 3 of their premier stars and enough money to go out and get 2 more. No, that was not a move. Not at all. Now, you ask and you compare because that took place in December of 2011. That took place in December of 2011. In July of 2011, what took place in July of 2011? For those of you basketball historians, leave it in the chat. Leave your thoughts in the comments. What took place in July of 2011? Well, in July of 2011, the Heatles came together. The big 3 in Miami. LeBron, Chris Bosh, Dwayne Wade. They came together in Miami. They went to the championship in that lockout shortened season, the 2011-2012 season. The biggest difference between what the Heatles did and what the Lakers were trying to do is that the Heatles didn't need to trade. You can't stop someone from signing as a free agent. I can't stop you from signing to a team as a free agent. I, as the commissioner, have no veto power over that, as long as you do it ethically. But even tampering, I can only fine you. I can only fine you even if you're tampering, as if you're talking to them but when they're on another team. I can't stop you. 2, all 3 of those guys were on max level contracts, and they had no cap space. They had to sign guys off the street. They signed the Mike Millers of the world who were over the hill, the Ray Allens of the world who had to take pay cuts to get there, everybody that was on James Joneses of the world and the Joel Anthonys and guys like that. The league ain't afraid of them. You can have those guys. You can have those guys. You can have the Joel Anthonys, even though Ray Allen was still make clutch shots. He wasn't in his prime. You could have Mike Millers and the Mario Chalmers and all those guys that was on the Birdman, the Chris Birdman, and all those guys that were on the Heat. That's cool. But you can't be like the Lakers and have Kobe and Dwight in his prime and Chris Paul in his prime and be able to go get a Joe Johnson or somebody that was out there, a Darren Williams or somebody that was out there at the time, a high-level guy like that. No. Or both, or 2 of them. No. Especially when we own the Hornets. especially when we can stop it from happening. That's exactly what the NBA did. This is exactly what the NBA decided to do. Like, nah, man, we not going out like this. We are not going out like this. And so that is the unfortunate history of why Chris Paul was not sent to the Lakers. Instead, like I said a few days later, Paul was traded to the LA Clippers for Eric Gordon, Al-Farouq Amino, Chris Kaman, and the Timberwolves unprotected pick in 2012, which I think ended up becoming Austin Rivers, I want to say. I think that ended up becoming Austin Rivers. That deal combined Chris Paul with Blake Griffin, with the team in the basement in LA, the other team that plays in the Staples Center in Los Angeles, thus giving us birth, along with DeAndre Jordan, to Lob City. At the end of the ensuing lockout shortened 2011-2012 season, the Hornets were bought by the late Tom Benson, who was also the owner of the New Orleans Saints. His wife, Gail Benson, still owns both teams. And it's probably why everybody wants the hell out of New Orleans. Because they are now the Pelicans. And the Pelicans, every time they get a star, especially since the Bensons have taken over, they want to leave. Anthony Davis wanted to leave. He wants out. He wanted out. He got traded to the Lakers and won a championship. If the reports are true, and where there's smoke, there's fire. Zion Williamson wants out. He wants to get out of New Orleans. And part of the reason why a lot of those guys want out of New Orleans is because the Bensons own them. And the Bensons are football people. And at one point, and I don't think it's like this anymore, but from what the report said, was that they had football people and trainers and training staffs and stuff like that working on the basketball guys also. It's not a good way to run a business. I'm just being honest. It's not an ideal situation to run your business, having your football, training staff, recovery staff or whatever, also working with the basketball guys. These are two totally different style of people, body types, injuries in most cases. Yeah, let's not do that. Training methods, all of that. So yeah, man. Chris Paul to the Lakers. What could have been? What could have been? Before I get out of here, I do want to talk about some other sporting news that take place. Be sure to hit the thumbs up button. Thumbs up, like, share, subscribe. First Take made some news. So for those who don't know, Max Kellerman has moved on from First Take on ESPN. Stephen A., from all the reports, said Stephen A. wanted Max out for years. That's what the reports are saying. He wanted him out. They had a nice little cordial goodbye, farewell, whatever. But Stephen A. said from the reports, allegedly, Stephen A. wanted a different debate partner to have more of a debate. Give him that spark that Skip Bayless used to give him, right? Give him that spark that Skip and Shannon have on their show where sometimes they get pissed at each other. But Max kind of has this I'm smarter than you attitude from the reports, and Stephen A. is he's been done with that for a long time now. So now he wants some more debate and fireworks. And there's a guy that they announced today that is going to bring some fireworks to First Take, and that guy is NFL Hall of Famer Michael Irvin. So it says First Take update: Michael Irvin and Tim Tebow, which I'm not thrilled about that one, to debate Stephen A. following Max Kellerman's departure. Michael Irvin and Tim Tebow will be among the guests of rotation of guests that appear on First Take opposite the now solo star Stephen A. Smith. Irvin will join the show on Mondays during the NFL season, while Tebow will join the show on Fridays. During the week, the guest commentators will include Paul Feinbaum, Keyshawn Johnson, Mina Kimes, Kimberly Martin, Monica McNutt, Jessica Mendoza, Chiney Agumake, Dan Orlovsky, Kendrick Perkins, Marcus Spears, Brian Windhorst, and Damian Woody. So they have a ton of people, but the two bookends will be Michael Irvin and Tim Tebow. Now, the crazy thing is Tim Tebow really ain't even that good on TV. Let's just be honest. Tim Tebow is not that great on television. It was weird. There was this Twitter comment that said he has this weird cadence, right, when he speaks. And I was like, dang. That's kind of true. I knew it was something I wasn't crazy about seeing Tebow on TV, but it actually happened to be that weird cadence that this Twitter user actually happened to point out. But Tebow draws People love Tim Tebow. That's why he got another chance at the NFL. That's why he keeps getting these chances on television. Eyeballs are glued to the screen when Tebow is on the screen. So that is why he will continue to get jobs on ESPN, Fox, or whatever, because people like to see him. Michael Irvin is going to be interesting because Michael Irvin likes to turn up. Michael Irvin likes to be loud. Michael Irvin might be the one person in the world that is more rambunctious than Stephen A. Smith. So those Monday shows are, depending on what kind of sports viewer or debate show viewer you are, it could be great or it could be horrible television for your eyes and ears, because they're going to be very loud, very flamboyant, very rambunctious, and it's going to be interesting to watch. That's all I can say. Leave your thoughts in the chat. Leave your thoughts in the comments on the things that are happening over at First Take. Leave your thoughts in the chat and leave your thoughts in the comments on the vetoed trade of Chris Paul. We're talking about this 10 years later. What could have happened throughout those 10 years? How many championships would the combination of Chris Paul, Kobe Bryant, and Dwight Howard would have won if they would have started in December of 2011? How many championships? Leave your thoughts in the chat. Remember, and keep in mind, Kobe played 5 more years, right? He made it to year 20, which ended after the 2016 season, right? In 2016 is when his career ended. So how many more championships in that 5-year run? You give him just that 5 years. Realistically, let's say Kobe plays those 5 years. How many more championships do the Lakers, does Chris Paul, does Kobe Bryant win if David Stern never vetoes that trade that doesn't allow Chris Paul to come to the Lakers? Instead, he was subjugated to the team in the basement, the Clippers. Once again, I'm Jeff Lightsy Jr. with the Black Boss Channel in Victory Formation. Thank you guys for tuning in. Be sure to hit the thumbs up button, like, share, subscribe, and I will see you next time. Peace.